Hey guys, welcome to the Wild West Show. I'm Upamanyu,
And I'm Meghna.
and we have got a great show planned for you. We will be talking about what is the headline topic of this week, where the US government officials have planned to roll back regulations on the Endangered Species Act. US was one of the pioneers of such an act for a country, and now with the current government, they're planning to roll it back. That'll have some devastating consequences. We'll discuss those. We will also talk about the Canada US proposal to lower trade protections for peregrine falcons. This is again diving into the exotic pet trade and such other things. What else do we have, Meghna?
So, we're also going to be talking about how sloth selfies are feeding a booming wildlife trafficking trade. The poor sloths are smiling, and people are like, okay, I need them at my home.
Mm.
We're also going to be talking about how there's been a recorded tool use by a wild wolf, which might be the first recorded tool use. And obviously, we're going to be talking about some species discovery. So, keep tuned in.
So, why don't we jump straight into the headline topic? This is a report from The Guardian, which is headlined Trump officials reveal plan to roll back regulations in Endangered Species Act. This goes on to say the Trump administration unveiled a plan to significantly roll back regulations under the Endangered Species Act, ESA. A move experts fear will accelerate the extinction crisis. Proposed changes include allowing economic impact to override habitat designations and removing safeguards against future threats like climate change. This, again, as I said in the intro, America was one of the first nations to have this concept like of a national park. America was first one of the first nations to introduce a countrywide Endangered Species Act, and America has been the pioneers in a lot of things. And for better or for worse, it is one of the global superpowers. So there is a lot of following going on. What America does, like what America does, every other country tends to follow that trend to some degree or other. So this is especially bad in the global socio-political scenario where America is taking this move, and of course, this is fueled by finance, right? This is economic move, get more money, or maybe like
It's also
disregard.
it's also because the person rolling this back doesn't believe in climate change. He doesn't believe in global warming. So it's a far-fetched.
No, but even if he didn't believe in that, like if he didn't have anything to gain from the situation, he wouldn't care. Like he wouldn't care if the species, if it wasn't harming him or his ability to earn more money in some way or the other,
Oh, true,
he
true,
wouldn't
true.
care.
Because I think, I mean, before a president, he's a businessman, so he looks at
Yeah,
the money, but he doesn't look at the. What I'm saying is he doesn't look at the consequences or
yeah.
the effects of what decisions he takes, because he doesn't believe in those effects. He believes that whatever he does is great, like, because there is nothing like climate change and there is nothing like global warming.
Yes, and I think I did not we thought we would respond it to it here. I think last episode that we did had a comment from one of the viewers which said you don't have to be a climate scientist to know the ringleaders of the climate change bandwagon, climate change is in quotes, don't truly believe the narrative they're selling. Um, and I think like that to an extent, like I don't fully disagree with that thought, because the the consensus and the information that is out there is very fragmented. Like that is truth of the situation. That doesn't make the situation untrue, but it is the truth of the situation that all the people advocating for climate change are giving out a very fragmented message overall.
One that, and the ones against it are also like, um, a lot of media channels and a lot of news channels. Everything that you see, the news that gets to you is extremely biased and it's very narrow. So whatever
Hmm.
can actually pass through these regulations of the, the political, what would you say, um,
Red tape.
yeah, like, so only those you will have actually hear. So I know that at least in India it happens that a lot of media channels have a big stake by the big companies, which are completely in sync with the government, so you'll only see
Hmm.
what they want you to see, and it must be similar in other countries as well, which
Yeah,
makes this entire environment fight tough, because not everything you want will be shown to the public.
exactly. Exactly. And that and like we know very well, like our generation better than anyone else knows how easy it is for misinformation to spread. Like it's misinformation spreads like wildfire, whereas for true information to spread and for the actual, fact based information to spread, it takes a long time. People are attracted by that, dopamine hit that they get with fake news and fake information. And that
Yeah.
is one of the reasons we're doing this show, like to combat all that fake information out there. And now with AI and the slop it is generating, and the scale at which it can generate fake news, including fake photos or videos, it is becoming increasingly urgent and impossible for us to combat that.
Yeah, I think this is exactly how we work. Like, we thrive on the negative news. Like, we do not want to hear anything positive. We like the masala of the negative news. So, like, if you,
Mm.
even with climate change, I think when you tell people that, oh, look at this seal that's dying here, that's when they actually like it. But if you just talk about, like, how climate change is melting the glaciers and the water is like, the water levels are rising a little bit, people are not interested because it's not impacting them as negatively as, like, you see a dead body of a seal. So even with climate news, like, the more spicy it is, the more people are interested in it.
And the worst part of it is, like, these organizations, these social media companies, they are capitalizing on this negative attention that we are giving them. um and
Yeah, and then
and the current leader
they can do for
of the United,
likes, comments.
yes, yeah, they have successfully introduced a cycle that we are actually affected by how many people are liking our posts or how many people are commenting on our posts and such on. And I think the Trump administration very well understands the power of that and what it can gain from that. But anyway, continuing on this news report, it says the plan also rescinds the blanket rule that automatically protects threatened species like endangered ones, potentially leaving newly listed species unprotected for years. Furthermore, the definition of critical habitat would be narrowed, excluding areas species no longer occupy. This initiative is part of broader efforts by the Trump administration to dismantle wildlife protections, prioritizing energy extraction and industrial access, even in sensitive wilderness areas. Critics, including the Center for Biological Diversity, call the proposal a death sentence and a blueprint for extinction of America's most beloved wildlife. And that is in quotes. That is such a powerful statement, what we borrowed our the title of our episode, today's episode from. But it is so true because they they are making basically the rule or the law now, which I'm sure Americans, when it was established, have conservationists would have worked really hard to establish those laws at that time. I think it was in the 1800s or early 1900s sometime. That
Yeah,
law is being repealed to make it more difficult to protect anything. That law gave this blanket protection, and now it's case by case. So that means it is going to get stuck in government red tape, and that is basically what the administration wants, I think.
yeah, and I think they're talking about the rollback of the regulations right now. But when Trump took his seat, he made big changes to the like the hiring and the recruitment at the national parks. There were like a lot of
Hmm.
jobs that were slashed away immediately, and that
Hmm.
meant that there were lesser people to look after these forest areas. And he did that specifically so that there were lesser people, so they would say, okay, then let's cut down more forests, so you have lesser area to focus on to protect. So it was like the strategic move that let these forests not be controlled or not be monitored, because we need more of those forests to cut down and get our resources.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even before the employee firings or the restructures or anything like that, the number of rangers in national parks, and this is not only true for the United States, it's true for everywhere in the world. The number of people that are looking after the national parks is already very low to begin with,
It
and to
is.
cut down on that number, it is really really like backwards. That is the only word. Like, we are going backwards in terms of all the progress we have made.
It
And
It is so true. Oops, when we were going for our course in New Zealand, just before applying for that, there were obviously three places that you could go to do your masters in wildlife filmmaking. One was the UK, one was New Zealand, and one was US. And primarily, I did not want to apply to the US just because of this, because Trump was in power that time, and he did not care about the environment. Like even back then, he was rolling back everything that Obama had fought for, and he was putting these big
mm,
pipelines in, and he did not care what impact his decisions had. That was one of my main motive to not move there, because I saw a person who did not care about the environment at all, and he still does not. So at least if you were balancing things out, it's different, but he's not balancing it out. He just looks at monopolizing or making it worse.
yeah, I think the priorities are vastly different. And I feel like, and I think I've mentioned this many times, and people might get bored of hearing it, but it is the truth in my mind that why does it have to be either or? Like, why do we have to choose either or? I am 100% certain, and there are countries who have done that, and we'll probably cover one such European country if we have the time today. But number of countries have done this, where they have prioritized both economic growth and conservation of wildlife. And I agree, there will be some costs, some compromises that have to be made in um, both directions. But that is still far better than just going to one extreme, especially if the extreme is cut down all forests completely. You know, negate the work that years and generations of conservationists and wildlife workers have done for the environment.
Yeah. And the thing is that, what Oops was saying about forest rangers, a lot of people in a lot of countries take those positions up only because they actually care about the forest or they care about the environment. They don't take those positions up just because, they have to apply to something and they're doing that job. So they actually care about the forest and the environment. And it's really sad when they're laid off and then you say that, oh, we want to leave this forest unprotected and we're going to cut it down or we're going to drill down into the ocean. I was actually reading something yesterday, which was really disturbing. So it talked about how, when you have little kids at home, like the meal is being prepared, and instead of waiting for the meal, you give them chips. Now the kid is full on chips, so the
Hmm.
kid will not eat the actual meal. So after this example, they showed how, if you when you drill deep, like when you do the deep sea mining, and the sediment that it produces, that sediment rises to this level that a lot of fish would imagine that the sediment is actually phytoplankton. So they would feed on these
Hmm.
chips instead of the actual phytoplankton. So we do not even know the long term impact, what it means for these zooplankton and phytoplankton, and the sediment that it rises from the floor. So, all these deep sea mining and all the deforestation, we only feel like, okay, right now it doesn't have big impact, but it would have huge impacts once
Hmm.
you actually, like, see it maybe 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line.
Hmm. That's very interesting. I did not know that. Because from eating those sediments, they may be getting some nutritional value, but they're not getting any calorific value out of
Plus it kind
eating
of
the
disturbs
sediments.
plus it disturbs the cycle, right? Because you're supposed to eat the zooplankton would
Hmm.
multiply by that, and then everything is the cycle above it. But if you're going to feed on the sediments, then what happens to the zooplankton or the phytoplankton, and how does it affect
Correct.
everything going forward?
Right. Right. Um. Very right. And I think our discussion question is on those lines as well. Like, should economic gain justify weakening endangered species protections? And I don't think it should. And I think we're very aligned on that, because these environment protections or endangered species protections or all these protections that are there, these are um the balance that I was just talking about. Like, you have your freedom for economic growth and you have your freedom for drilling, but you also have these protections. So you have these designated areas, designated parks, and designated boundaries where you can't really do anything. And to have someone in power who just doesn't care and will do anything to sort of mitigate that. I was listening to a podcast or something, a news report or something like that, and someone was calling this administration like, we didn't even know that the president had these power. Like, we didn't even realize that these doors existed. Like, Trump is opening doors that we didn't even know existed or the president could open, and he's just blatantly doing that. His administration is blatantly doing that, and he has this group of people who are like so in tune with the message, and I think that is that is a strength of the radical sort of right wing politics in general all over the world right now. Their message is very streamlined. Their message is very to the point. It appeals to the masses, whoever their supporters are. But the left is very fragmented and it's all over the place. And that's why it's so difficult for the left leaning people to get behind a bandwagon.
Yeah, I think if these radical right people actually wanted to do something good, they would get immense support and actually be able to do huge
Yes.
changes. Because like a lot of people in the US believe in the Make America Great Again slogan by Trump, and they believe that white supremacy is the biggest supremacy. So if Trump actually rallied them to uh, work towards the climate, let's go plant more trees, or let's make this a national marine sanctuary or something, he could do huge, huge, huge great things for the environment. But no, he's like, no, let's just make more buildings and let's just cut down forests and let's drill for more fuel, because that is what we need.
Yeah, it is very surprising, and I think we as a society have detached ourselves so much from nature and environment that we do not understand the gravitas of what like everything we use and everything is we do in our daily life is thanks to the natural world. We are communicating over this huge distances. I mean, we have made the fiber optics and we have made all the instruments for to enable these communications, but all the minerals, all the raw materials has come from our mother nature. If we didn't have those raw materials and we didn't have those um you know products, we wouldn't have been able to make these things. So we have so detached ourselves that it is like asking asking a person where does meat come from and getting an answer from the supermarket. It is like that. People, I feel like the situation is like people are thinking things just appear from thin air and it will just keep on happening as much as we exploit or do anything we like. It'll just support us, support us, support us. Yeah, so I think that is what the general mentality of the MAGA people is.
And I think it's just not, it's everywhere with right wing people, the extremities. But I also think that, right now, with climate change and everything, if people have seen the countries where people have taken like really strong stance, for their environment or their ocean, we have seen those huge changes. So there have been areas in Philippines and I think Indonesia and a couple of other countries where they've cordoned off areas and have been like, okay, let's just protect this. And there the fish have spawned and they've multiplied that they're overspilling into non-protected areas.
Yes,
So if you
and that
just
is
give,
actually benefiting the fishermen.
it is,
The
so the,
overspill.
exactly. So the thing is that anti-climate people don't realize that if you actually help in saving, you're doing something good for yourself, because in the end you're
Yeah,
going to reap the benefits. But people
yeah.
only think of everything as, okay, how can I get more fossil fuel, or how can I make more buildings. And I mean, as a first thing, I grew up in something which was a complete jungle, and now it's just buildings. And we suffer from the pollution, we suffer from the decisions that were taken, and people still live here. Like, 20 million people live in the city, but everyone is just suffering with the pollution and everything that has gone wrong with development. So, uh, development in a limit is okay, but the way development is growing, it's not okay.
It is not. And I think sooner rather than later, it's already high time we need to normalize this notion that it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. It can be, there can be sustainable solutions, and there are people working towards those solutions, and there are solutions already existing in the market if you research, but those solutions are not prominent ones. They're not appearing in the media, and they
And
are
sad,
certainly not being talked about in the public discourse.
and sadly, I feel like, like whatever ruling government is always there. Like whenever the president or the prime minister makes a decision, everyone who is in the government, there's no opposition from their own party. Like, like there needs to be like internal opposition saying that, oh,
Yes.
this is not good. There's opposition from the opposition party because that is their work to do. I mean,
Mm.
that is their entire job, that they have to oppose everything. But from you and your own party, how is there no proper circulation or no proper opposition, that is this good or is this not good for the environment?
I,
At least, I mean, people do not realize that when this COP30 and everything happens, that things could get really bad within 25 years. It's already really bad. There are areas suffering where there's no water, there's areas with flooding, there's stronger hurricanes, corals are bleaching, animals are going extinct left, right, and center. But no, I mean, people don't want to talk about it.
yeah. And all they could come up with is, oh, I'm feeling very cold. Isn't it supposed to be warm?
Yeah.
Is it global warming supposed to be a thing? I mean, yeah, that shows the lack of understanding of the situation. And I think, like, even if scientists are wrong about this whole situation, even if scientists are absolutely wrong about this whole situation of climate change, what negative effects can you have from saving a mother or helping a mother who gives you everything that you live, breathe, and eat? What could be the harm in that? That is my entire question. Like, what could be, what possibly could be the harm in saving a mother,
The
or
harm, I
helping?
think, the harm or the loss would be that you don't get to destruct her even more for your own personal gains.
Mm,
Like, I think it's just how we are as a species. Even on an individual level, if we are able to afford a 10 rupees chocolate today, you want the 100 rupees chocolate tomorrow. Like,
mm,
you always aim for that. You're never happy with the 10 rupees chocolate. So it's the same thing, I think, when it comes to like a nation level as well, that you're not happy with, oh, I'm getting this much money, or I have these projects. You want more. So how do you get more? The only way is to exploit nature. There is no other
mm.
way.
The commoditization. No one is ever happy to stand still. They always want to grow, and um, yeah, and yeah. I don't know if we can blame individuals, because it is the society. It incentivizes you to exploit and grow, and
To be honest, it's so bad right now. I was reading up a few days back that the Gen Z, like the Gen Z generation, they're taking loans to go on trips, like for vacations. So there's this pressure, like the social media pressure and all. So everything that you're doing now, it's actually based on what is going on around you. So
Mm.
like the Gen Z generation is actually taking loans and going on trips, which means that that has become their priority, or that has become their go to thing, instead of just surviving in what you have. Like, like I would have never heard
Or
of that before.
saving.
Or saving, yes, exactly. I mean, like, our parents or our grandparents always saved for a rainy day. They did not, they were not like, if they did not have the means, they would not go traveling, or they would not go spending wastelessly. But now our generation is so what would you say, consumerized. Like, we want everything that is shown, like all the
Mm.
ads, everything, like we're going crazy for anything and everything that
Y-
comes new in the market.
Yeah, yeah. We want to have our cake and eat it too, which is what the society is incentivizing. Um, and especially, like, we are coming full circle back to sort of social media. They and all the other, even like insurance and loan companies, they're capitalizing. They're literally capitalizing. Their business models is based on the fact that people are impulsive, and how do we capitalize on their impulsiveness, on their how do we there's a fight for our attention span, and our attention has also become commoditized. um but yeah.
It, it does say in the article, though, that the US public broadly supports species protections. A 2023 poll found that 80% of registered voters favored full funding of the ESA, and
Mm.
73% view biodiversity as important to their everyday lives. So the public has still been,
Of
like,
course they do. Like, anyone with common sense would know that it is a very really important issue, and you don't have to be left wing or right wing or centrist to be able to support this, because this is raw truths. Even if whether it's science backed or not, it takes general common sense to understand that all the things you're doing is courtesy of Mother Nature, and we simply wouldn't be able to exist without that. That is the most basic truth of life.
but
So,
but this means that all the people supporting Trump also support the Endangered Species Act. So like there's a
mm,
big overlap between it. um and it would be great if there was some way for the people to be heard, and these rollbacks not happening. Because when those acts came up, like how Ope said, it was one of the first countries to come up with something this novel. Then they were put in place so that there's no exploitation. So that entire premise of the act is falling apart.
that is true. That is true. Um, I think we have spoken all we have to on this topic without getting too political, I hope. But yeah, Meghna, do you want to choose another topic?
Okay, we're going to choose something which is not as controversial as this. Let's choose one of the lighter topics. So
Right.
um, so mysterious damage to crab traps set by British Columbia's Heiltsuk Nation for invasive green crabs led to a remarkable discovery. In May 2024, a camera filmed a female wolf demonstrating surprising ingenuity, potentially the first tool used by a female wolf. Uh, it goes on to say that the wolf systematically pulled a submerged crab trap ashore using its attached buoy and rope. Footage shows her grasping the buoy, then pulling the rope to expose the trap. She dragged it into the shallows, chewed through the netting to access the bait cup containing herring or sea lion carcass, and consumed her snack. Study co author Kyle Artell praised her perfectly efficient motions, indicating an understanding of the trap's components. This incident, observed by scientists and health guardians, suggests wolves possess far greater cognitive abilities. I think I'll just go and share across the 1 second. Let me share this.
I'm sharing the video of that. You can,
Oh,
you,
you're sharing the video?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is basically, you know how we obviously have dogs at our home and we know that they're really intelligent, but with the wild wolves, there's no way to know because there is literally uh, no components or no way to see their cognition
Like
levels.
control. I think one of our guests, Hoey, talked about this with wild elephant versus captive elephants as well. It's the same, I imagine, with all wild versus captive animals.
That there is not enough. What
You
would
can't
you say?
control. You don't have a control situation, which is essential in a scientific experiment, right?
Exactly. And for the
Hmm.
wolf to exactly know, it must be that this wolf might have observed either how it was being put in, or it was something where the wolf tried a couple of times and then was successful. But obviously, this shows that this wolf knew exactly what was in there when it was pulling for it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. So this is something that it could know that this was an easy meal or an easy way to get to its meal.
And it might have tried to get to its meal like just by entering the water and going swimming towards the buoy, because it at the beginning of the video it does swim and get the rope or get the sort of floating device that is holding the rope. It might have tried to get near the actual trap and access it that way, but then it figured out that, oh, if I pull it to shore and then if I try to enter it, it will be much easier for me and I can maneuver it inside it much easier, which if you think about it, it's remarkable.
Yeah, and I think the thing with this is obviously this was the first recorded tool use. We do not know if the wolf had experimented earlier with trying to get to it
Mm,
because in this one it almost seems like it's clockwork, like it knows exactly what it is doing, which I think
mm,
has baffled the scientists even more. That if that was the first time it did it, it was really clean. Like it just knew what to do and where to get to and what to eat. So
mm.
it might have been one of those things where it got recorded right now, but the wolf might have experimented earlier. But we do know, I mean, the dogs that we have in our houses, they came from wolves. Like all of them used to be wolves at some point of time. And we know how intelligent they are, I mean, they have the intelligence of a 3 to 5 year old child. So it's not a surprise that wolves have that same kind of intelligence because that's where the dogs come from.
Yeah, I think there's a joke that they might be even more intelligent than adults. Like they understand the commands we give them. But you know, sometimes other adults fail to understand what we tell them or speak to them. So, yeah, canids in general are really intelligent. I think my theory, and it is a theory out there, that social structure of an animal has got something very integral to do with intelligence. And the argument behind it is navigating a social structure. You have pecking orders, you have different, you know, levels of hierarchy that exists in a a social structure, when you live in a pack or pride, or a group, or in our case a society, you need a very high degree of intelligence to navigate those relationships, who to be, courteous to, or who to be aggressive over, or who eats first, who eats second. You need a high degree of brain power to process all that information. So I feel like social animals are the animals, like, it is like, even anecdotally, it's true that all the animals which are termed as being intelligent, including us, are social animals. They live in groups.
That is true. I think when they talk about the monkeys, apes, even dolphins, even wolves, like all of them are pack
Lions,
animals.
yeah.
Yeah, pack animals, herd animals. I think what helps with this is, even in this article somewhere it says how dolphins are also
Not a
you
herd,
know
Meghna, not a herd. Herd is like random group of animals which travel together.
like a pack.
It is has to be a pack or a pride or a group. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with, like, even in this article, it says somewhere that the dolphins are also learning tool use from looking at their
Yes.
peers. So when they're
Yes.
looking at their friends, so one of them may have figured something out, but the others all figure out by seeing that one. So when in social setups, it's easier to understand or gain that what do you say, that understanding of using some kind of tool by actually looking at someone else doing it. So that is
Mm,
the difference between a social and an individual setup, because in an individual setup you are trying to figure it out just for yourself. There's no one to guide you, there's no
mm.
one to tell you if it is right or wrong. But with a social setup, you get all of that knowledge.
Yeah. And I think this article also mentions other things about canids as well. It says people have seen canids, the group that includes dogs and their kin, using tools in captivity. As Meghna was saying, in 2012, ethologist Bradley Smith of Central Queensland University in Adelaide, Australia, and his colleagues shared observations of a captive dingo dragging a table some 6 feet and then climbing onto it and grabbing an object that had been out of reach. The same dingo also moved a dog crate and stood on it, allowing him to see out of his enclosure. So I think, as Meghna was saying, canids have been really intelligent and really um yeah, and I feel like even African painted dogs, doles in India, dingoes in Australia, all of these animals, wolves are big animals, but these dogs are not very big, but they are able to take down even the biggest of buffaloes, Cape buffaloes, or they even attack like small elephants, um so, and also there is this very very curious and interesting pattern of taking care of their of some of their pack. If someone is injured in a pack, I was recently watching the latest David Attenborough series. It's called, I forget the name, but in that there is the kingdom. It's called Kingdom, and in that there is a group of it follows a group of a pack of African painted dogs, and at one point we see that one in the group has lost his leg in a poacher's trap. Um, so that particular dog cannot hunt, and the pack was literally taking care of him the whole time. They were hunting for him, they were giving him a piece, they were actually waiting and seeing behind to see if he's following, and they were actually running slower than usual to make sure that that injured dog is also with them. So I think pack animals taking care of their young, taking care of the injured ones, that navigation just requires a very very high degree of
It is
brain
true.
power.
So even with elephants, if you've ever seen, like if they think that you're threatening the young, the elders would come in the front and they would
Mm.
form a circle around the young. So they exactly know, like they can gauge and they can protect, and all these like, I mean, even though elephants are herd animals, but all of these animals are really really intelligent when when it comes to protecting their pack or being with their pack or helping each other out. And we don't give them enough credit. Like we think that as a society our species kind of help each other, which is true. Like there are a lot of times that we step up for each other, but there are a lot of times that we actually do not. We like let a person um like it's getting worse and worse. Like people are okay taking photos but not helping someone out dying on the road, or not help out someone. So as a species, I think sometimes we step up, but most often we disappoint each other as well. But with nature, I feel like it's always surprising that they step up when it's needed.
Yeah, but nature is pretty brutal as well. Like, nature is pretty brutal, and I think the societal disconnect that has happened for humans, at least, I think it is in that rat race or in that ambition to separate ourselves from the brutality of nature.
But
It
I
has
mean,
come with side effects. That is, I think, yeah.
yeah, I think the side effects are that now we don't have to face the brutality of nature, but we're constantly looking for validation. Like how that entire Black Mirror series came in, where everybody's ratings affected you, and like your worth or your value was how people gave you the ratings and everything. Now it's real. Like everywhere you go,
It is.
like the Uber guy would be like, please give me a 5-star rating, and the server at a restaurant would be like, please give me a 5-star rating. And I mean, we ask likes, comments, and
Mm,
subscribers. So it's almost like we've become that society where we've escaped that brutality, but we're stuck in a different kind of loop of validation.
correct, correct. And the proponents of these kinds of algorithms and these kinds of um, technologies have figured out how to capitalize on our attention, on our insecurities. The internet is a vile and dangerous place for young people of this day and age, and it can be brutal. It can be brutal and relentless in its criticism and in its campaigns. So, yeah, I think as much as we have moved away from nature, it has only caused like mostly harms, and it has complicated our life so so much. It has definitely caused immense harm to the environment. But these wolves, the gray wolves, they are lucky to live in the free world, and they're using tools, which is such a cool thing. Yeah, look at this wolf, such a majestic creature. um Beautiful image as well. So
Yeah, and I don't know if people know, but I mean, from wolves, when we came down to pugs, we basically inbred and crossbred a lot of species,
mm,
and now like the species which are closest, like let's say like a German Shepherd and all, the inbreeding is actually leading to sloping backs and different problems for the dogs. So these wild wolves, they're really lucky because they don't have to deal with all the artificial breeding that we are doing. They don't have to deal with the medical problems that are associated with it, because everything that we touch, somehow we cause one complication or the other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. These wolves are majestic creatures, and they are, I think, the only creatures who occasionally will, like, there have been real documented cases where they will occasionally take care of a human baby. There have been real cases and very many fictional stories inspired by it, the prominent one being Jungle Book and the story of Mowgli. Um, cool. You want to move on to the next one, Meghna?
Yeah. Do you want to take up the?
Yeah, I can do. I can quickly do a species. Species one, new species one. Um, let me see. Uh, Back from the dead, prehistoric living fossil thought to be extinct is rediscovered in UK for the first time in 75 years. This is a story from the Scottish Sun. A prehistoric living fossil, the tadpole shrimp, has been rediscovered at a Scottish nature reserve for the first time in 77 years. This ancient species, one of the oldest in the world, was found at RSPB Scotland Mersehead in Dumfries, where it was believed to have been eradicated since its last sighting in 1948. This re emergence is the result of a targeted reintroduction project. Tadpole shrimp eggs were reintroduced to select locations at Mersehead during the summers of 2024 and 2025. Favorable wet weather conditions then allowed the eggs to hatch, leading to the recent discovery of two adult shrimps. This now establishes the UK's newest and third only known population of the rare creature. And I will just share the photograph of this shrimp. This does look like a tadpole. I wouldn't have been able to tell if I first saw this that this was a shrimp. Looks like a crab also, for some reason. But yeah, this is another, I think, benefit of having like a um you know captive population of certain species. It is much easier for wild reintroduction, especially for species which have a smaller life cycle. Um, you can just plant the eggs in the wild. But if the shrimp has grown into an adult, that means um, that they are thriving in their environment, which is a good sign.
It also
Um,
means that the climate has not changed that much, that if they kind of eradicated in the 1960s and after, like, what did you, they actually introduced these eggs, and these eggs were hatched, and there are adult
mm,
shrimp eggs. So that means that these eggs, wherever they were harvested from, somewhere different, but when they were introduced to these locations, it means that it is still their climate and their environment to grow. So even
mm,
despite not being in the same area for 60 years, they think of it as home. I mean,
yeah,
the everything is perfect for them and their growth.
both of which are great things. Moving on, we can do another one of our longer topics, um, where this is a report from Mongabay Environmental News. Mongabay, scientists slam Canada-US proposal to lower trade protections for peregrine falcons. Peregrine falcons, the world's fastest and most widespread raptors, represent a remarkable conservation success story, recovering dramatically after near extinction event. Pesticides like DDT post World War II poisoned their prey and caused fragile eggs, critically impairing their reproduction. Following a ban on these chemicals and rewilding efforts, the species no longer is endangered. While international commercial trade in these falconer prized birds remains highly regulated, wild caught specimens are banned. Canada and US propose loosening these restrictions. The contentious proposal will be voted on at the upcoming CITES Global Wildlife Trade Treaty meeting. Known for incredible 320 kilometers per hour hunting dives, these resilient raptors overcame their past vulnerability, but it is very difficult to say whether they would be able to recover from something like this. Um, I'm I'm just trying to understand what is the demand for them. Falconers. What are falcon, like falcon racers?
No, no, I think it's the, have you ever seen those videos of how the Saudi people, they carry the falcons with them in the flights and all?
But okay, so it is a pet, like it is like a pet and the symbol of opulence or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, they're. I would have to see what the falconer price birds are, but I think they are a status symbol. Like the having the
Right,
birds is like a status symbol. And you know what? So basically, what they're saying is that post the World War II, there were pesticides like the DDT, which is still used in places like New Zealand. It poisoned their prey and caused fragile eggs. So because that pesticide has that poison which affects a lot of birds and it kills the birds,
right.
but it also poisons their prey. So if you eat the prey and you get the indirect poisoning, it still affects your your egg laying ability or for those eggs to fertilize, which caused a massive decline in their population. So they
Hmm.
needed this protection, and it's actually really sad that now they want to lower those protections and say that let's do more trade in peregrine falcons.
I just looked it up, and this is from Wikipedia. It says falconry is the hunting of wild animals in their natural state and habitat by means of a trained bird of prey. What different things we are into! Such both amazing and depressing at the same time. So we want to train a bird to hunt for us, and I think the reward for our mind is in being able to train this bird, um, which which is, yeah, I can understand the appeal, but yeah, it's again, it also comes back to population. Like all of these would have been okay and would have been, like we talk about doing something in moderation, this would have been by nature in moderation if our population did not explode to such explosive numbers. Like if
I
our population curve was was flat as it was for the last 600, 700, 800 years, these problems wouldn't have existed.
But I still don't understand. So you get the bird, you train the
Yeah.
bird, and you both go hunting together.
I mean, like I would imagine, like you go hunting, you basically release the bird, and the bird comes back with a prey. So that's what I said. Like, the reward for our mind is that we trained this wild bird to do something for us. I think
So so
that is
does
our
that
reward.
so does that mean that when you go out hunting, one day the bird, like the falcon, brings back something, and then one day you're hunting? Because obviously they're also hunters, right? The ones training for hunting. I'm assuming they're hunters. Otherwise,
Yeah, yeah. Maybe they're hunters as well. Like, um, small animals are hunters. Squirrels and rabbits often fall prey to these birds. Yeah, so I think game hawking or game hawking, these are called. Um, yeah, so uh, I think falconry is basically hopping, like, and funnily, the word hawker has originated from this whole practice as well. Um, so yeah, this dates back. Okay, it says Sakar falcons are the national bird of the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, and Yemen, and have been integral to Arab heritage and culture for over 9,000 years. They are the national emblem for many Arab countries, and I think you mentioned the Arabs as well. That was the image in your head, which is, yeah, very
yeah. I think the Saker falcons, peregrine falcons, and there's something called a
Mm,
lanner falcon. It
mm,
is something which is because they've been together for a long, long time. You would see a lot of
mm.
Saudi princes and Saudi people. For them, their falcons are a big part of their status symbol. Uh,
Correct.
they 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 travel with these falcons, and even when you go to places like Dubai and all, you can actually pose with these falcons because there'll be these falcons that are tame, and
Mm,
like they'll make them sit on your hand and everything, so you get that experience.
mm,
So falcons are a big part of that. I'm assuming that maybe for Native Americans or for Canadians it may have been something before, because I'm assuming that the falconry thing is not only trading to the Middle East, it is also in other parts of the US where people want to train these falcons because they know. And we were talking about wolves a while back, but birds are extremely intelligent. Like we know that when it was World War II, World War I, we used to actually send messages via pigeons and other birds. So
mm.
birds can be trained to a extreme level. Like you have parrots that talk. So with these falcons as well, like birds are extremely intelligent. They pick up commands and they can follow. And sadly, like they have become hunting tools now. Like it is a tool for us.
Yeah, and it might have made sense 9,000 years ago or even 1,000 years ago, but now it doesn't make sense. But as is with any hobby, you can't really, if you find enjoyment from something, it's very difficult for you to, let go of it. But
The
for something which involves like a species, like a wild species, exploiting a wild animal, I think it's better let go of that hobby.
Yeah, and I think that the thing with, especially what do you say, with wild animals, and especially something like falcons, you people do not realize that their migratory patterns are huge. So just I think yesterday I was reading this article about how from Manipur, India, all the way to Africa, like some 5,000 kilometers, Amur falcons have covered that distance within a week. So
Mm,
you can imagine the speed at which they travel and how far they can migrate to. And the studies are just coming in now, so to kind of put these falcons into, like to make them a pet, and to obviously they're saying that they want to loosen the restrictions from the wild falcons as well now. So it's actually
mm,
really sad that you want to uh, make more of them your pets than actually let them live their wild free life.
yeah, and I think this is the case with all animals who migrate. I think all animals in general, like except for animals and birds which are really local, most animals cover long, long distances um, in their day-to-day life, like be it mammals on land, be it mammals on water, be it birds on air. They really travel a lot, and to keep them in a confined space, it's yeah, I don't know. Again, as I said, all of these problems also is very much rooted in the our population explosion as well. If we didn't have these many people on the face of our planet, all of these might not have been a problem because yeah, the demand will be much small, the demand will be much smaller, and all those
Yeah.
other things. So yeah.
I'm sharing this image. I think this is what I was
Ooh,
talking about. Oops, like so these are like 80 falcons on a flight.
wow.
They all have their own seats, and they were reported to be well behaved as well. Um, so this is how, at least in the Saudi, like when you transport the falcons via flight, they have their own seats.
Wow.
And they get the treatment. But this,
Wow.
like, so we know, like, I mean, 80 are just in this flight, so it's like a big deal. Like peregrine falcons, Saka falcon, all falcons are a big deal to like the heritage, at least of the Middle East, and probably parts of the US.
Yeah. Yeah. um this a bit surprises me for a different reason. I would have thought a plane where Arabs are traveling, that would have been just all business class or all first class. I wouldn't have imagined there being economy class seats. on a plane that Arabs travel on, but apparently
No,
there are.
but the birds are economy class. They're not business class.
Right, right. No, I think some people are sitting there as well. I can see the headgear of
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
the
There are
people.
there are people,
So I would have never imagined like an Arab sitting in an economy class
but
seat. But oh well, you learn something new.
but it's also ironical that these same falcons can actually fly probably next to the
Yeah,
plane and probably
and
like at the
travel
same,
faster or longer.
but they're inside the
The
plane and they're like tied
irony
inside.
of the situation. Oh
Yeah,
my god. Yeah,
because
I think it.
obviously I guess you can't train them to be like, okay, just meet me 500 kilometers that side. I don't think they'll listen to that, so you have to like take them in the flight. So it is really funny because they can actually fly and they're not allowed to fly.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. Um, yeah, it is quite something, and like again, you pointed out the irony of the situation. It is very um
I
yeah,
I
the habits and hobbies we allow ourselves to
yeah.
indulge in. Yeah.
And this is like the second sad news that we're getting from the US. So I really, really hope that they do something for at least one species. I mean, if they even if they don't want to do something for climate change or global warming, you literally got the falcons up from their brink of extinction or the endangered levels. Just because they're not endangered anymore does not mean that you can push them back to that level. The loosening of the restrictions means that now you're accepting that they don't need to be protected as much, but they need to be
Mm.
protected just as much because they're beautiful species and they deserve to be in the wild.
Yes, and like I know a lot of our audience, especially for our from our recorded podcast, that we post on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon and other platforms. I know majority of you that are listening to our podcast is from the US, and as we saw in the previous article as well, majority of you like empathize with the climate change situation and do not want the Endangered Species Act to be repealed, or and I would imagine do not want peregrine falcons to become a trading or wild peregrine falcons to become a trading commodity. So it definitely is in your hands because you have the power to actually write to your senators, write to your representatives, and I think we have said this multiple times. Write to your senators, write to your representatives, voice your. Use the same tool that big corporations are using against you. Use social media, the power of social media, to get your message out. Share this episode, this part of this episode with someone who really needs that convincing or that boost to take action. But do that. That will make a difference.
And
Definitely.
yeah, and the falcons can't fight for themselves, so you have to be the voice of the voiceless. That is the only way
Exactly.
that we would be able to ever help the animals, wild or tame, or the environment, by being their voice.
Right. Right. Um, 98% of our podcast audience is from the United States. That's again a rough number, but yeah, you have the power to change those decisions and have your say in those decisions. So um yeah, please do that. And yeah, it is not that we are strapped for. Yes, there are human interest problems, but this cannot be a way to solve this, and this doesn't even solve a human interest problem. Like it just fuels the rich in getting their hobbies, or a group of people in it fuels their hobbies and nothing else.
Yeah, it
So
just it just fuels the exotic pet trade. Like, okay, let me get a falcon, let me teach the falcon to hunt, let the falcon hunt. I still don't understand. Like, if the falcon's bringing back a dead squirrel, is it for the falcon or is it for me? Like, am I supposed to eat that squirrel, or is it just the falcon hunting for itself by bringing it back and eating it in front of me?
I think Yeah, it is for the hunter, the human. I think that is also part of the training. But
I
as
would
I said, the
assume.
thrill is also like I trained this bird to go do something where it could have flown away. So
Yeah, but I would assume that the rabbits, at least they might eat the rabbit meat, but squirrels, I don't know if I've actually heard of humans consuming them. So
yeah, I think hunting like this makes sense in the Arabic landscape because it is very desert like. You lose a lot of energy, traveling in those spaces. It also makes sense in like mountainous regions where navigating the mountains is very difficult. So big, like an eagle can fly and get a fish or get something like a snow hare or something like that. I don't know. That otherwise would be very difficult for you to hunt. Yeah,
but to be honest, I think the Arabs, the falcons, they actually don't fly and come back. They're just like with them all the time.
really.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're like a
No,
status
no. I
symbol.
mean, now it might be like that, but I'm saying the origin of it
Maybe,
would have been falconry, like hunting. That
probably,
is that is why they would have started with it.
probably.
Um, cool. Probably you will want to choose another topic, Meghna.
Yeah. So we will go to the next topic, which talks about how sloth selfies are feeding a booming wildlife trafficking trade. The apparent docility and smiling appearance of sloths have made them tourist darlings, ironically fueling a cruel international trafficking trade. Governments from Brazil, Costa Rica, and Panama are proposing stricter rules for two sloth species to prevent their extinction as demand for photos and exotic pets intensifies. Traffickers employ brutal methods, often felling trees to capture sloths, killing mothers, and severing the claws or fingertips of young. Baby
Hmm.
sloths are separated from their mothers, enduring immense stress and suffering. Biologists emphasize that their perceived smile masks profound pain as these animals are not physiologically adapted to human interaction or noisy crowds. This exploitation highlights an urgent need for global intervention to protect these vulnerable creatures from extinction. This again highlights, just like the falcons, that you just want something that either looks cute or is really resourceful. And with the sloths,
Hmm.
I mean, we've seen movies like Zootopia, I think, where that scene is really famous where the rabbit
Hmm.
comes in, he says the joke, and he thinks his joke hasn't worked, and then the sloth in real time,
Laughs.
yeah, it, like, his face changes really slowly and then laughs. It's really cute. And in general, anyone who's encountered a sloth in the wild, they know that they're really slow, calm species.
Hmm.
And it's sad, I mean, because with the sloths, when the babies are on them, the babies like clutch onto them, just like how the monkey babies are. So these
Hmm.
babies clutch onto the mom. And our greed is so huge that you're okay like felling down trees, killing these babies, separating these babies, just so that you can have like a selfie with it, or you can have this baby at your home and say that, oh, it's happier here than it was in the forest.
Yeah. The and I think we have talked about this multiple times that I think only the animals we have domesticated we should be allowed to keep as pets. I think the animals we have bred for being pets, literally being pets. Dogs and cats are the primary ones. Horses, cows, do whatever you like. Not whatever you like, but keep the animals, the domesticated animals, as your pets. No one will take any offense, or no one will take any. You know, yeah, they won't have. No one would have problem with it. But leave the wild animals alone. Leave the exotic pet trade alone. Don't. Why would we want that?
I think, I mean, you would see it in the picture that I'm sharing. People would want
Mm,
it only because you see that sloth's face. It just looks so cute, and they're like, "Oh my god, it looks so cute. I could like I could just munch on that face. Like, let me get it home. Can I please have a sloth at home?" It literally
mm,
starts from that. And people do not realize that their actions would lead to extinction of the species that you think is cute. I mean, there are literally calls from Costa Rica, Brazil, to stop the trade of these species, otherwise they will go extinct. So this smile has a cost to it.
yeah. And didn't we invent, or didn't we, don't we make soft toys for that reason exactly? Like Jane Goodall didn't want a real chimpanzee as her pet or something when she was young. She had a doll, a chimpanzee doll with her. And with our fertile mind, we can imagine that soft toy being the real thing, or play with it, or do anything we want. Um,
True, and I mean today
that's
in
the reason
today's
we created soft toys
true.
entirely.
True. And in today's world, there are like these extremely realistic human babies that can be made. So if they can be made, like extremely realistic sloth babies can be made if people really want to hold them and look at them and take photos. You don't really need to exploit the wild. I know they look really cute, even the image that is on the screen right now. They're extremely cute, but that doesn't mean that that gives you a passport to, just exploit them. And how it mentions in the article that I've read that they are not used to humans and extreme noises because they belong in the forest, deep inside the forest, with just the forest noises. So it's cruel on them to also bring them into like a human atmosphere and expose them to human noises and human impacts.
Mm, yeah, I think we would have bred all the different other species as well. Um, and all the other species would have been domesticated as well if they we really did have a symbiotic relationship with them. Because I think wolves, as much as we domesticated them, they also domesticated themselves because they found the opportunity of sticking with a human had some advantages to them finding food or eating scraps from what we ate. And it was a symbiotic relationship as well. And then we obviously, selected, different traits to make our work easier. But yeah, it was a two-way street, and I don't think all these other animals were intended to be with us by nature as well.
Yeah. And this picture on the screen, it shows the baby as well. The
Mm,
baby is like right on the mom, and the babies tend to stick to the moms for a long period of time till. And sloths are really slow. Like their entire process of pregnancy, their entire reproduction process is slow. The growth is slow. Everything is slow for them. Like that is
mm,
just how they live their life. It's like the slow life for them. So it's really cruel if you look at this image and you're like, oh, I want the baby, like let's just fell down this tree and take the baby and the mom from here, and let's send them halfway across the world to someone who wants to take a photo with a smiling sloth. It's really sad to even think that people are okay with that.
yeah. Why would you want to separate um this baby? Yeah. Like the different, I don't know what to call it, but different interests and different hobbies we have. It is really strange to me sometimes. Um we want a slot. Who would have thought it? Who would
Yeah.
have thought it?
And this is a great campaign. So I think this is a campaign with like a slot soft toy
Mm,
to actually deter people from actually getting real
mm,
slots. So this is a great way, like just what Oops was talking about, soft toys. This is fine,
mm,
get the soft toy, keep the soft toy, have great model with it. But I mean, why do you want the actual slot that lives in the forest happily? Like why are you taking its happiness away from it?
exactly. Um, yeah. If we separated, if a human baby was separated from its mother, or family. That would be a crime, and this isn't, which is not surprising but sad.
Yeah, we always
Um,
have double standards. Yesterday, I was reading up about some like some crime stories. So this woman apparently stabbed her husband like 27 times, 37 times, and then she skinned his body and she like kind of
oh my
hung up.
god!
Yeah, she hung up that skin in her kitchen, and I think
Wow!
she
Oh my
she
god!
she chopped him up and she put pieces of it in the vegetable stew that she was making for her family. So then, I mean, the police found out this was one of the, I think, the first women in Australia who got like a life sentence without parole. But
Hmm.
someone in the comments wrote, oh, it was almost like killing and skinning a goat. And then I was thinking like, oh yeah, the whole thing, when it happens with the goat, we don't feel that bad about it. It's literally the same process probably. But when it happens to a human, we suddenly feel all that pain, like, because we obviously relate to other humans. But we're okay with all of that exploitation happening to something that cannot say that please don't do this to me. But when it
Yeah.
comes to human, because we feel like, oh, they can voice it out and it must have been brutal, we somehow
No,
feel that pain.
but we have been cannibalistic in the past as well. So I think that the society works as like, the humans you feel close with, and now it has become this global phenomena where we have the time to think about things like empathy and other things. So I think
Compassion.
obviously compassion and things like that. And I think it's natural that we would feel that for our own species. Yes, killing a goat is very similar, but we kind of have to for our own, to keep ourselves fed and watered. If a lion thinks about what it is like to, kill a deer or something like that, it cannot survive. So it's the
No,
same thing for us as well.
no, there are two things here now. One, we don't really need goats to survive. A lion definitely needs its meat to survive. We're not completely dependent on them to survive. One, that. Secondly, I'm just talking about how our pain process works. Like, how we are pained when we hear a story about another human going through that entire process, but we do not get pained when we hear about another animal going through that same process. So like, people would not be okay if a human baby was separated from a human mother, but if a sloth baby was separated, they're
No, I
somehow fine.
completely agree. I know I completely agree with that. But some species we have to be desensitized to, and the truth of the matter is that we depend on goats, cows in the current, society that we
we
have built.
we do, but we I think our social conditioning is so strong now that it kind of goes beyond the domesticated animals where we don't have
Yes,
feelings for them. It goes to wild animals too, and we don't have feelings for them. We only
true. That
have this.
is
Yeah, we only want all the cute things in our house. It doesn't matter at what cost it comes to our house, but we want them in our house.
that is true. Yes, I think the domesticated animals we have to be desensitized towards because they are what is feeding us. They are what is putting food on our table. That is the most important thing. One of the most important things.
But
Um,
I think at the same time, with the domestication process, it is not so much as eating meat as opposed to the systematic abuse of those animals. The abuse that is going on with the domesticated animals is what is usually talked about when it is talked about. Um, because
yes, but like the
the demand has grown so much that the supply is not able to meet all the demand. So now they're abusing all the animals and making them work overtime and producing babies and multiplying really strongly, and
yeah.
then killing them way faster than you would have earlier. So they don't really live a life. So you kind of those they're just commodities, and even the
Hmm.
pets are slowly becoming commodities because you just want to have them. They don't have to be like for some people they might be the pets might be really important, but for others it might just be like a status symbol or something that's really cool to have.
Yes, yes, certainly we can say that about the people who owned tigers. What what business do you have owning tigers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even that has happened in the US. Like, they still say, I think, that there are more tigers in the US than there are tigers in the wild, which is mind-boggling. That there are places like in India where you're actively trying to increase the population of tigers, and then there are places like the US where there are ligers as well, and there are different species, and they're all in like small enclosures, and there's so many tigers bred together.
Mm, mm. I don't know a solution to this. Definitely soft toys. Definitely, I think augmented reality and virtual reality and AI. All of these things can play a huge role.
Those
Simulating those environments and simulating like a selfie. I don't know.
Definitely, definitely. I think, like that is the future to all the zoos as well. Like, like get all the zoos off and have the simulation reality to educate the children and to educate everyone. I think that
Mm.
the thing we as humans want is, as soon as you say that no, you cannot have this, we absolutely want to have that. So if you say that no, it's you should not have pet sloths, then eventually people are like, no, I want to have a pet sloth. Like, how can I not have a pet sloth?
Yeah, we don't like being told what to do, and that is true on an individual level as well. Um, cool. Um, I just wanted to quickly give an update from COP30 so we can uh, probably move on to that. Um, so this is a report from the Guardian, and do for anyone that's listening and watching the live stream, do follow the Guardian's coverage of COP30 because they are doing a really uh, in-depth coverage of the COP30 event. Um, this comes from the COP30 itself. This is a report from the Guardian. Divide over fossil fuels can be fossil fuel phase out can be bridged. COP30 president says. COP30 president Andre Correa do Lago stated that bridging the divide over fossil fuel phase out requires oil producing nations to acknowledge the rise of clean energy. This is, I think, a really powerful statement because as much clean energy we have, we also have to realize and we also have to fight the lobby of fossil fuel energy because in the short term they have got a lot to lose from the rise of clean energy. um, Speaking during the crucial stage of the Belém talks, the veteran Brazilian diplomat emphasized that wealthy countries must offer more assurances on finance and technology to developing nations. While not necessarily demanding an increase in the headline 300 billion annual finance target by 2035, Dolago stressed the need for better leveraging of existing funds. He suggested more resources in multinational development banks, increased public money in funds like the Green Climate Fund, and exploring alternatives such as debt for nature swaps. This approach aims to make developing countries more sustainable without solely relying on direct increases from rich world coffers. Dolago believes the strategic shift can overcome current squabbles and competing interests at COP30. I think both of us are very clear on one fact, and strongly agree on one fact that whatever be that alternative energy source, but fossil fuels cannot be our future.
True. And I think, that's a very valid point and a very strong point that you brought up, that these oil producing nations, it's not easy for them to acknowledge that there is a rise of
Mm,
clean energy. They do not want that, because that would
mm,
mean that all countries would be at an equal footing. Maybe obviously not in terms of producing the clean energy or producing the tools required for the clean energy. That might still stay with these developed nations, the resources and the money. But the fact that when once you have clean energy, then these countries which have that stature of being the oil producing nations, their stature will fall down because all countries will be at an equal footing. All of them will have access to clean energy, and all of them will be working with clean
And the
energy.
and moreover than the stature, it's, I think, the flow of money will stop
Yeah.
because no one will buy from them. And I think this is one space that China is making leaps and bounds of um, development on, because they are heavily dependent. I will agree, it is for political reasons, but whatever it is, the outcome is good. China is very dependent on oil producing nations, including the United States, for importing all of their oil, because China does not have as many oil reserves as the US or the Middle East. I mean, I think US, Russia, these have the largest oil reserves of anywhere. But yeah, they have to import a lot of oil for a lot of cars. Obviously, China is one of the most populated countries on earth, so they have a lot of cars running on their roads, highly populated, densely populated cities. So they import a lot of oil. But if you see the graph of their import, the graph has kind of started to flatten out, and experts project that it will keep on flattening and maybe going down in the next 3 or 4 years, which is really surprising. People were like, how could this happen? But China is investing a lot into renewable energy. China is leading the market in, electric vehicles. BYD is one of, not one, but the first company in the entire, first automobile company in the entire world which is profitable. No other company has ever been, or is ever going to be, I think. So China is heavily invested for political reasons, for socio-economic reasons. They're heavily invested in renewable energy, and I think the United States, as we saw today, is moving in the other direction, where they want to fund more and more fossil fuels. So, if the strongest economy on earth, one of the strongest countries in the earth, they are going in that direction, then obviously they have a vested interest in keeping this industry alive.
Definitely, and it would not just be them. It would be a lot more countries from other than the US. It would probably be Middle East, Russia. Every country that exports oil, they would not be okay with the fact that there is a phase out or a rise of clean energy. Even though knowing that that is the future, like that has to be the future, there has to be that phase out because we know the impact that fossil fuels has. So it's actually great that COP30 is talking about it, that the president Dolago has brought these solutions up. And there are like, and he's talking about not just the what do you say, the money, or the increase in the budget or the finance target, but he's also talking about different ways to do it, like like you can have a fund, and you can have these debt for nature swaps. So instead of debt, like if you can do something for the nature, so if you can swap like money for something that you can do for nature.
Which is a great idea, I think. Which is a
Yeah.
great incentive. Like, you're giving financial incentive to a country where they can, yeah, swap their debt by doing something for the natural world, which is, yeah, I feel like that needs to be talked about more, because that is one of the ingenious ideas. Like, if, well, now that I think about it more deeply, it is very interesting idea. Um, yeah, and I think also, Meghna, like, not only for the pollution that it is causing, the fossil fuels, but this fossil fuel reserve is not endless. Like, that is common sense. Like, it has a limit to how much it can service. So compared to the sun, which is like
Endless.
as endless as it can get. Like, it'll take billions of years for it to die, and we won't be around. Nobody will be around. The Earth will be gone by then. and before it dies, it'll destroy the entire solar system. So yeah, it is kind of endless. Like the sun, when the sun dies, we won't be there to experience the sun's death. So um, yeah, it is nearly
Yeah.
endless.
And I think
Um,
this whole thing of wanting more fossil fuels is what is also causing a lot of climate stress, because a lot of deep sea drilling that we were talking about earlier, that is also for fossil fuels or newer places or newer things. All of these deep sea drilling is usually for fossil fuel, which
yes, yes,
so we're running out of probably our already known reserves, and we're trying to find new and new and new reserves. And those new reserves would mean more environment and climate degradation or exploitation.
true, true, and I think there is a lot of great tech. We have the technology. That is what I'm wanting to say. We have the technology to achieve these things. I think hydrogen-driven cars have made leaps and bounds. I think that is one of the sci-fi dreams of has been a sci-fi dreams of mine. A car that only produces water as a byproduct of combustion. Hydrogen driven cars have makes made leaps and bounds. I was, I think, seeing a story at a newspaper the other day where this company has um, made a proof of concept where this car can be driven 1,500 kilometers on one charge of hydrogen tanks, and they've streamlined the hydrogen tanks as well. So all these different, it won't be. I don't think at the beginning it won't be just electric. It would be a mixture of electric, hydrogen, this and that. But whatever it is, anyone with basic common sense should understand and could understand, like, it cannot be fossil fuels.
Yeah, and I think not just the hydrogen, but I think a lot of these bigger vans that people drive now, they have like these solar panels on top of their the vans or the houses, and they actually power the entire motor van, and they're able to
Yes.
like charge and even run their electric fires and do their cooking, everything, or their
Yeah.
washing based on the solar panels on top. So it's quite great that like you're coming up with all of these alternatives.
It is very very interesting. And as I said, like, we have the technology. It is only up to us. And I feel like it is, like, the one of the main reasons it's not being it is not as much in the public discourse as it should be, is because of the fossil fuel lobby. I'm pretty sure they don't want it in the public discourse.
Yeah, definitely don't, but we have to wait and see how it changes, because eventually people want that change. Eventually we realize that there is a limit to how much we can exploit fossil fuels. So that change will come, but we do not know how quickly that change would come.
Yes, and I think it is good that the COP. I think there is an agreement in place, which you know, which puts this $300 billion annual finance target by 2025, which is basically um, which will go towards renewable energy in the countries. There's $300 billion, and I think there's a proposal to increase it as well. But yeah, all of this will go towards the countries, but we also have, I think, a target of phasing out fossil fuels. That's why it is being um, talked about. And I think the debt for nature swaps is a very ingenious idea. Should be talked about more. I feel like it is a win-win for whichever countries are in that situation. It's win-win for the environment. It's win-win-win. It's win for the citizens. It's win for the country, and it's also win for our mother nature. So yeah, I feel like that would be a great thing if we go ahead with that plan. But other than that, I think that was the update from COP 30.
Yep. I think we can go on to one more species discovery.
Cool. Let's do that.
Yeah, so This is again a museum specimen discovery. Extinct rocket frog species identified from single 62-year-old museum specimen. Researchers have identified a new rocket frog species, Dryodobates erythropus, from a single
Mm,
62-year-old dried museum specimen collected in 1963 in Curitiba, Brazil. This particular 14 individual represents a species now new to science but tragically probably extinct in the wild. The discovery, detailed in Zoo Taxa by USP and Smithsonian Institution researchers, reveals the frog's original habitat in Curitiba's Taruma neighborhood, once characterized by streams and wetlands, and now it's extensively urbanized with modern infrastructure. This profound habitat transformation makes its continued survival extremely unlikely. This specimen, housed at the Smithsonian, is the only one ever found, solidifying its probable extinction. This finding underscores the critical trend. Its genus Dryodobates already includes four species that vanished between the 1960s and the 1980s.
mm. Yeah, I shared the photo of the museum specimen as well. It looks
Wow.
ghastly, but yeah, this
Thank
is
you.
how museum specimens are kept. Um,
I mean, it
yeah,
also looks ghastly because it's not alive. I mean, it's dead, so it
yeah,
it
yeah,
it's not going to look very pretty for something that's not alive.
correct.
But it's also really interesting that that people go through museum specimens and then they try to find out if there are new species. So there are
Mm,
new species being discovered via museum specimens. It's just sad because we do not know if they actually survive in the real world because there is no documentation of them in the real world. But
yeah.
knowing that its habitat has completely changed from streams to wetlands to modern and infrastructure,
Mm,
I don't think there's a chance of survival because these specialized animals that only thrive and survive in certain habitats, they need that habitat to survive. So if that habitat has changed, they cannot survive. Not everything adapts easily. There are certain species that can adapt faster, but there are most species are very specialized.
yeah, yeah. I think most species are very specialized, and it finds very difficult to adapt to changing climate situations. But yeah, I think we were both very surprised when we found out, new species can be discovered going through museum specimens as well, which just proves the importance of documentation and cataloging and things like that as well. Um,
Yeah.
cool. I think you wanted to talk about the Denmark stuff when we were discussing creating the script for it. If you wanted to go into that.
Yeah, we'll take that topic up. So Denmark announces one of the world's most ambitious climate targets, while the rest of the EU looks away. Denmark has unveiled one of the world's most ambitious climate targets, committing to an 82% cut in planet heating pollution by 2035 from 1990 levels. This
I like
surpasses,
that. I like that term, planet heating pollution.
yeah.
It's different from. It can be fossil fuels. It can be a range of other things as well. It doesn't have to be fossil fuels, but it just encompasses the entire everything there. But anyways,
And
sorry
also
for
it
the
has
interruption.
it has like an impact, like when you say planet heating pollution instead of fossil fuels, like it actually makes you think because it's saying planet heating,
Yeah, it,
versus
it puts it
yeah.
into simple terms. Even if you say greenhouse gases, like what are these things? Like the general public might not understand, but when you say heating, it just hits right at the point. Yeah.
Yep. This surpasses the UK's 81% goal and the European Union 66.3 to 72% range for the same period. While many nations aim for net zero by mid century, scientists emphasize early substantial action is crucial to prevent excessive cumulative pollution, a point
Mm,
often overlooked by delaying governments. This pioneering announcement, made with minimal international attention, starkly contrasts with trends across Europe. Most European governments have recently intensified attacks on green rules, weakening existing policies and diluting new ones despite publicly affirming climate commitments. Denmark's leadership highlights a rare dedication to rapid decarbonization, challenging the widespread European trend of backtracking on environmental regulations. Um, so there are 2 3 points here. One, obviously Denmark is doing all of this, but they're not even doing it for the media, they're not doing it for the coverage, they're not doing it for the publicity, they're not being
Mm.
like, oh, look at our commitment to the environment. No, they're doing it quietly. They're okay with no, public hoo-ha about it. They don't want that attention. They're just saying that we commit to it because we know that the climate is important. The UK is the close second with 81% goal, but the rest of the European unions, they have smaller goals. And despite their goals, they're backtracking, just like the US, who's backtracking on their, or rolling their regulations back. The rest of the European governments are also seeing if they can weaken the existing policies or dilute them, despite saying that no, I will not do this. So this is actually really nice to see one country wanting to make that change, because in this day and era, most people want the money and most people don't want the environment or the climate.
Yeah, it is the trend to choose finance and economics over everything else. And I think this also mentions a very other very crucial point that um, is like scientists emphasize early substantial action is crucial to prevent excessive cumulative pollutions, point often overlooked by delaying governments. And I think also the other importance of early and substantial action is that you know how you, like, we as individuals, we procrastinate as well. And procrastination ends up we have to cram everything just a day before the deadline. And in terms of exams and everything else, the elders in our family and the parents would say, okay, phase out your study, do not procrastinate, phase out your study. I think it's the same with this action as well. Like, New Zealand too has a target of net carbon zero by 2055, but there is no visible action that is going on to achieve that. It is going to reach 2030 or 2035, and then suddenly people are going to realize, governments are going to realize, oh, the deadline is near, and they will start to cram these policies, these news policies, just to achieve that target, because then it will become a question of political clout and things like that. So this early substantial action is also crucial, because the more we front load things, I think it'll be easier for the citizens of those particular nations to achieve that in a more systemized way, not like cramming at the last day before the exam.
Yeah, and I've shared this photo. This is an article from The Guardian, and I think we actually tend to pick up a lot of articles because it's great journalism that The Guardian does.
Mm,
This is the Danish Prime Minister that is speaking to the media, and despite a lot of media being in front of her, there's not a lot of coverage about what they're doing. And as Oops pointed out, I think the thing is the timing is also important. So we can see Denmark taking those steps and actually wanting to make those changes, but the other countries probably think that, oh, 2050 or 2055 is really far away, we don't have to just start taking steps. We can be,
mm,
we can weaken our policies right now, we can find those loopholes, we can exploit the environment. We can see after 10 years if we really need to make those changes.
hoping that we don't. Our country, India, it also has a net zero target by 2070, if I
2070.
remember.
Yeah,
If I
2070.
remember correctly,
70.
yeah, which is a full 35 years after this target by Denmark, which is understandable. India is a big nation, a growing nation economically and politically. So, but it is good that we have uh, a target for that. But
It's just
again,
I think the thing about Denmark is that the government is taking that responsibility, and it is part of
Mm,
its goals, which you do not see with other governments. So in India, they're actually, even though like the pollution is this bad, the government is actually actively trying to like throw water at the AQI meter so that like so the reading is lower. So just around the AQI meters, there's like these tanks going with water spraying so that the reading is low. And a few months back, I think they wanted to show that the one of the rivers was really clean, so they actually made a small pit. They filled it with like mineral water or really clean water, and the pictures that went viral for the clean river were actually just a dummy, like, and that was exposed. So in India, we don't want to take that accountability. Like even though we would say, okay, those nations are developed and they have more resources, but even with whatever resources we have, we would rather want to play around the problem than solve the problem. And this is what I think a lot of countries are doing, like even with the US and other countries. They
mm.
want to play around the problem, they don't want to solve the problem, they want to see how we can avoid the problem. like
Yeah.
like like
It's like you
we
have been given a task by your parents and you don't want to do that. You don't want to go do this chore. So you find ways not to do it, give excuses
Yeah,
not
or
to do
like
it.
you have something in your plate that you don't want to eat because your parents are telling you, so you try to find your dog or your cat and you try to feed that to your
Yeah.
dog or cat, or throw it in the plant so that
Yeah.
you don't have to
I,
deal with
I
it.
I've done it. I've done it at times, throw juice of greens into the potted plants. And I think in our video ninja room, my brother is smiling as well, our producer, because I know definitely for a fact he has done that and continues to do it in certain situations. So we all do that. I think this is that human attitude exposed at a country level, at a government level.
Yeah, that is the truth. So go Denmark, and I hope that you can inspire more countries. I really wish that there was more media attention on these kind of positive news so that other countries also feel the pressure to be in
Mm,
their footsteps. Sadly, that's not how we work, or that's not how in general news work. So hopefully in Denmark's footsteps, we all take inspiration and we're going to do better with our climate goals.
yeah, follow the leaders, not the largest and the strongest voice in the room, but people who are doing actual impactful work.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes. Do you want to take up any other topic or?
I think we've kind of come to a natural end. I feel like
Yeah.
um, we can start closing out the show. Yeah, cool. Do you have something to say to the viewers before we close out?
Sure. Uh, I would just say urge your politicians, urge your government to make more climate make the climate goals more feasible, make them come to life. So we are the voice. Obviously we are not someone who can make the policies, but we can make or break the policies. Our voice always has an impact. So make sure that your voice is heard, make sure that you're talking more about the environment, the climate, the wildlife, the animals. We need more voices, and we need more action towards the climate and energy. And as Oops calls it, it's our mother nature. So we are the ones who have to fight for it. So let us know what you think, like, what is the best way or the best strategy for the governments to be heard.
Yes, and as always, um, do subscribe and follow us on all the different platforms. This is one of the I feel like both voices should be heard, both sides should be heard, and ultimately it is you who has to make a decision. So um, help us sort of reach that masses. So our side of the argument, at the end of the day, we are making an argument. We're presenting a case towards all our listeners and viewers. So and in hopes that they are making the right choice for themselves. So do subscribe, do share this with your family and friends. If you're listening to a recorded version of this podcast, on your favorite podcasting platform. Leave us a rating, that helps a lot again with that reach and getting it out to a lot of people. Our last episode has performed. It was on climate change. Go listen to that if you feel like. But it has performed really well. It has reached nearly 1,000 people now. I was just looking at the statistics while we were talking today as well. So get it out to your family and friends. Definitely help spread this message and just present this point of view. Different, might be different from what you believe in, but just listen to it and come to your own conclusions. But other than that, that is it for today, and we shall see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.